So I wanted to start by thanking everyone for joining us this evening. We had a bit of technical difficulty here in Edmonton with my computers, but I think we're good to go now, and we'll just jump right into it. Well, if you want to pass me the ball, Margaret, I could advance. Oh, you've got it. That's fine. So
I'll
here
pass you the ball.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
This is the agenda for this evening. It won't take too long. Try to incorporate lots of information for our families and anyone attending this session. So I was just wondering, Lisa, would you mind reading through the agenda for us, please?
Sure. So we're going to start with introductions, an organizational chart, the defense team, regular force, reserve force, the elements, and we're not talking about the weather, CAF rank, that's cute, paying of compliments, military address, A is for acronyms, yes, the life of the military member, and
Fantastic. So as I said, this is an overview of the information I thought might be pertinent to interested parties to begin. There is a part 2 of this presentation, and I'll tell you more a little bit about that later on as we conclude tonight's presentation. So I want to get started by saying that my name is Denise, and I work at the Edmonton Garrison Military Family Resource Center. For 6 years, I was a deployment support coordinator, but I've recently accepted the position of veteran family coordinator. I have been doing that about a year, and if you're not familiar with that, it's actually a new pilot project for medically releasing personnel and their families. The reason why I developed this program was in response to the multitude of inquiries and comments I've received over the years, especially working as deployment coordinator. And those comments and questions and concerns were always in regards to the military life and the demands of the military lifestyle. A lot of people didn't understand or have any remote appreciation for what the lifestyle entailed, and you can until you're in it. So this is kind of a quick primer for those thinking about becoming involved in the military lifestyle. And I'm also the proud wife of a retired military member, and my husband served 20-plus years in the CAF. And over those 20 years, our family experienced 4 postings, 3 overseas deployments, and numerous duties, courses, and other taskings. My husband was a driver in the military, so that was pretty much absolutely equal to him being away all of the time. I also want to introduce you to Margaret. She is our producer today, and for those of you who don't know her, Margaret, would you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
I would be happy to. Thank you, Denise. So my name is Margaret McKenzie. I'm a military spouse of 25 years, and this is the very first posting that I've had the pleasure of taking my job with me. I am the virtual program coordinator at the Military Family Resource Center, Prince Edward Island, from my home office in Germany. And my job is in training and program development in virtual outreach. So that means that we adapt presentations from a live audience and we bring it to an interactive virtual audience so that anybody, regardless of our posted location, could get this information. We're creative. We're having a virtual Kaylee in November where people are going to bring and share their journeys through music. Anything is possible in a virtual classroom, and Denise actually took my 12-week program, and she's just done phenomenal work. So welcome, and I'm thrilled that you're joining us today. And if you like what you see, please share and have other people come on over as well. The more the merrier.
Thanks, Margaret. And the more people I tell about this program, about doing WebEx and being able to do the virtual classroom, the more ideas I've been hearing about. I know you've heard a plethora of ideas, but I don't think there's any limit to how this can be applied. So I'm looking forward to future endeavors and seeing what else comes down the pipe.
It's funny because people say I have a one-track mind. Everything. Oh, we can do that virtually.
But the applications are insane. So before we go on to that next slide, I think we had a little bit of a chat before we actually officially started, but I kind of want to just go around the room again and reiterate where everyone is from. But maybe if you could also share one thing you'd like to learn this evening that you're hoping that I've addressed within this program. So I think we'll just start top to bottom. Anne, would you mind sharing with us where you're from and what you hope to learn?
I'm from Toronto, and I'm a parent of a member who's just gone through first module of basic and is now at RMC. And what I hope to learn, I guess there's so much. What to expect, and also the terminology to use with him and all that stuff. So
very good. Well, I hope we addressed that. And I also want to thank you for sharing that your son is just starting RMC. Last Thursday, my 21-year-old went and did his aptitude test at the recruiting center. So I'm seeing this from different perspectives now.
Yeah.
And I'm a little stressed. So I told my deployment coordinator I will be her worst nightmare if my son gets in. So thank you so much, Anne. Kim, where are you from, and what would you like to learn?
I'm from, as I said before, Marmora, Ontario. I'm happy to learn anything. I'm a parent of a member. He's finished his basic, and he's completed his first 12 weeks of his educational part, and he's back in Halifax for another 10 weeks. So that's pretty much it.
Have you had exposure before to the military lifestyle before your son joining?
No, this was right out of the blue. Brand new for us. He started a year ago in August and went to basic in January, so it was fairly quickly went through the whole thing.
Sounds like it.
Kim, where did your son find out about the military?
Well, we have Trenton. The Trenton Air Base is close to us.
Oh,
right.
We've been exposed to that, but he basically was looking for a career. He didn't have much luck when he went to college getting a job in his chosen field, so he wanted a career, and he just started looking around, and he actually started looking at the Air Force and ended up in the Navy.
Oh, wow. You never know what's around the corner in life, hey?
No, like I said, this just came right out of left field for us.
It's really nice to have you here today, Kim.
Thanks.
Yes, thank you. Lisa.
Hi, I'm from Halifax, and I'm interested in learning a little bit about all the content and also about the, not to put you on the spot, Denise, but the facilitation of it.
Sure. I'd be glad to answer that. That's the easier part.
Yeah.
All right.
Do you mean the activities, Lisa, or what do you mean by the facilitation part?
Doing this program for others.
Ah, okay.
Right. Is that what you meant?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. We're working on, if you like this, because every presentation is more like a focus group. If this is something that seems streamlined and provides enough information, I will gladly share the PowerPoint aspect of this because it does look a little bit different in terms of the technology used. And then also we can certainly talk with Margaret about other sessions, other virtual sessions. Right, Margaret?
Well, yes, because you were saying during the practice session, Denise, that there's a part 2.
Yes.
And wouldn't it be great if we could do part 2, you know, it's new information, but it's, you know, it'd be great to have that as well in the virtual classroom. Anything's possible.
Anything's possible. And this is a living document. I hate that term, but it is true because I hope that I will continue to add to it and bring the information that we get, you know, based on the feedback from our families who are attending, keep adding the information that is being sought out. So, okay, and Cher, where are you from and what would you like to learn?
I'm from Ottawa, Ontario. We just did Military 101 Monday night at our in-person parent group that my husband and I started nearly a year ago now at our local MFRC. And with their help with 2 ladies that work there, but they're also military. Well, their husbands are military, but they have children in the military now. So they're a facilitator group plus they're in our group.
Okay.
My son joined 3 years ago. He's 24. He's won RCR infantry, and it's been a wild ride.
That would definitely be nice. So where is he posted?
I call it the Mommy Base because it's about an hour and a half from us. It's in Petawawa.
What do you hope to see from today's presentation, Cher?
Well, what we didn't go over Monday night, because again, it was so much, it was wonderful information, but it was information overload because it was our first meeting back from summer break, and we had so many new members, so it was all over the place. So I'm just interested in just going along with the flow and just taking in what is presented to me.
Super.
Very good. Well, excellent. This is great feedback because it will be acknowledged, and I'll be keeping it in my mind as we go through this evening, and then going back and adding and deleting what works and what doesn't work. So thank you very much. So I think right now we'll jump. Sorry, good.
Cher, can you just please mute your microphone because there's some background noise coming from your computer? Thank you.
Okay, let's jump right into it now. So if we can go to the next slide. So to begin the session, the actual hands-on learning session, I want to first talk about the structure of the Canadian Armed Forces. I mean, after all, the concepts of military and organization chart do go hand in hand. On this slide, at the very top of the chart, you'll see what we call an org chart, for short for organization. At the very top is the Prime Minister and Cabinet. The Prime Minister, who is currently Justin Trudeau, is the head of national defense. So we're talking Canadian Armed Forces. We know that we're talking about the national defense of Canada. Supporting the Prime Minister is the Minister of National Defense, or you'll see it written MND. The current MND is Harjit Sajjan, who I really want to meet because he seems really cool. He is responsible for Canada's defense policy, as well as the administration of the Department of National Defense and the Canadian Armed Forces. So his job is threefold: the defense policy, actually administering D&D, and the Canadian Armed Forces as well. At this juncture, we see that the org chart splits into two tracks. To the left, we have our Deputy Minister of National Defense, who supports Mr. Sajjan, and the Deputy Minister is John Forster. And then John Forster oversees the civilian members of the defense team, and we'll talk more about what that means to be a civilian member of the defense team in a few moments. If we go back to Minister Sajjan, we go to the right of the chart, you'll see the Chief of Defense Staff. And our Chief of Defense Staff, he looks after the military members themselves. So essentially what takes place is if there is a deployment necessary or mobilization of troops, that order will come down from the Prime Minister and Cabinet. They share the information with the Minister of National Defense as to what needs to be done. He will then communicate this information to the CDS, or Chief of Defense Staff, who mobilizes the military members as required. So you see that's how it all works. Who decides what? It comes directly from the Minister of National Defense. Are there any questions on that? If you have a question, you can raise your hand, and just a reminder to your right above the chat bar.
Okay, if you don't have a question, don't forget you can use the chat on the bottom right-hand side of the screen. And if you're ready to continue, just click on the green check mark for us, just to make sure that we're all together. Good. Super. Kim, Lisa, we're ready to continue. Green check. All right. Super.
Okay. Thank you. So we have the defense team. Has anyone heard that term before? You'll hear it in conversation. You'll hear it in the news. Your military member has heard it quite often as well. So essentially how the team is divided is in this little graphic that we see here. The defense team is comprised of both the Canadian Armed Forces, which is regular and reserve force, and the civilian employees. Combined, they all contribute to the safety and security of Canada. So what each segment is responsible for is listed up here. So we have our regular forces, which number about 68,000 people, and we have our reserve forces, which is about 27,000. If you're in my age category, you'll remember the term militia instead of reserve, but this day the newer term is reserve. The responsibility of these two groups is to defend Canada, defend North America, and international security as well. The civilian part of the defense team, we have civilian members that answer to many requirements on our bases. So they can serve as local or base firefighters, cleaners, etc. Operational support in terms of mechanics, shop repairmen, engineers, and corporate support as well. You can also note, though, that on every base, you can see military members doing those particular jobs. But when we come to the civilian aspect of it, these are support personnel to augment those trades or those professions that are required at any particular base. On our base, we have mostly military firefighters, but we have a lot of civilian drivers and mechanics and things like that. So it depends on what the need is at each base. Okay. All right, then next slide, please. So just a moment ago, I mentioned regular and reserve force, and this is another question that's asked quite frequently. What is the difference between the two forces? And this chart gives us an idea of what those differences are. I'm just going to go over a couple of them. When we see a regular force, we know that they've made the military their career. The saying is 24/7, 365. They are essentially part and parcel. The career is their lifestyle to be in the military. For a regular force, deployment is not voluntary. If you meet the requirements of being deployed in terms of physical ability, trade qualification, etc., it is fully expected and you will be deployed, unless there are extreme extenuating circumstances, which are determined through the pre-deployment process. If those circumstances do not exist to prevent the person from going, they are going to go. With a regular force, they can enroll in the Navy, Army, or Air Force. The ranks are the same as a reserve force. The regular force also follows the command structure, as does the reserve force. In terms of service, they do have to, meaning the regular force members, they do have to complete a term of service as they signed. There is a process to releasing from the military. They have to satisfy the term of a contract they may have signed, and then it does take some paperwork, which is, you know, another acronym for military to have paperwork. There's lots of paperwork required. In terms of reservists releasing, it's not so much paperwork. It is a little easier for them to be released. The process is just a little bit different. And then with regular force members, members will be posted around their career, during the time of their career. And their location is based on where they're posted, where they're deployed to, what their trades are, etc. If you're a reserve member, you are not posted. You can work with a local reserve unit if you've moved, but you will not be asked to move as a reserve member. And then, of course, both regular and reserve force members can volunteer to go overseas. We've had great representation from our reserve forces, especially during the Afghanistan years, because they are trained the same as our regular forces, so they do have those opportunities as well. Are there any questions about that? That's a lot of information. We can also send you a copy of that chart if that would be helpful. So just give us maybe send us a note or put something in our chat bar. Are there any questions? If you want to raise your hand.
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
I have two, first of all. First of all, a comment. The comment is we're going to be sending an after-session email, so this kind of information will probably be in the after-session email, so you can look at it in more detail. But so the reservists can be full-time, and yet they still, deployment is voluntary, even though they're full-time?
That's right. Reservists can serve under 3 different categories. They can be Reserve A, Reserve B, or Reserve C. Reserve A is 1 weeknight a week, so 4 weeknights, 1 weeknight a week, and then 1 weekend a month. Class B, and also summertime duty as well. Class B would be short-term contracts, such as a summer contract or doing 2 or 3 months, et cetera, for training, what have you. Class C would be a longer-term contract. So, for instance, there may be a special program, a special project that that a unit has developed and they need someone to work long-term, or they could be covering a mat leave, those kinds of things. Those contracts are not as frequent as A and B contracts, but they do exist nonetheless.
Okay.
So if you go on an overseas mission, that would be considered like either a Class D or Class C, depending on how long the mission is. Usually 6 to 8 months, and they would probably refer to that as a Class C contract.
Cool. Thank you.
You're welcome. I studied that one. I knew that would be a question. Any other questions on that? You had 2 questions, Margaret, or did I answer them?
No, the second was a comment about the after-session email.
Fantastic. Okay. All right, so we'll move forward to the next slide. This is just a slide to simply explain what the elements are when I say, you know, it's not about the weather. We have members who serve under 3 different elements, either the Army, the Air Force, or the Navy. Army is Land Forces Command, Air Force is Air Command, and Navy is Maritime Command. And interestingly enough, you can have a person from an Air Force element at a Navy base. You can have a naval member at an Army base. It depends on what the trades are. And we'll talk more about that in just a few moments.
I remember in Winnipeg we had a Navy guy. I thought that was interesting because there's no water in Winnipeg.
Well, you get flooding, but I don't think that counts, right?
Oh, that's right.
All right. So one of the more popular questions that I get about the Canadian Armed Forces is, of course, about the rank structure. The purpose of the rank structure is as listed. So it reflects the ability, the capability, the experience, and the knowledge of a member. In the CAF, there are 19 ranks in that structure. The higher you go, the higher they are in the command structure. And the structure consists of two kind of categories. You could separate them into two blocks, officers and non-commissioned members. And we have a slide that explains that a little bit better. Next slide, please. So I have this little chart. We call it ranks and abbreviations. The Royal Canadian Navy has different rank designations than do the Canadian Army or the Royal Canadian Air Force. But this chart shows you what the equivalent ranks are. So we have our general officers, our senior officers, junior officers, subordinate officer, who's kind of in between everybody. Then we have our senior non-commissioned members and the junior non-commissioned members. Some of the other changes you'll see as well, especially in the Canadian Army and Royal Canadian Air Force, you'll have private, but then you'll also have aviator for the Air Force. I'm just letting my dog out, sorry. All right, sorry about that. So in terms of the non-commissioned members and the junior commissioned members, those kinds of categories, the non-commissioned members, NCMs, those are recruits who after completion of basic training undertake occupational or trades training, okay? And then the officers, they have a university degree and they receive their commission from the Queen or the monarch at the time as officers in the Canadian Armed Forces. So when you have the non-commissioned members, those two lower, those are the trades training. You read my mind, Margaret, thank you. And then the upper grouping, the officers, they would have a university degree and they receive a commission from the Queen. So what does that mean to have a commission? That means they're tasked with demonstrating advanced leadership skills and therefore leading the military members under their command. Yeah, so it's really about the leadership aspect of it when you're talking about officers and you're talking about the trades training with our NCMs. Okay, yes, we'll get you a copy of that chart. That's a great comment. All right, so we'll go to the next slide.
Any question on the ranks and abbreviations? Give us a green check if you're ready to go ahead. There we go. Lisa, oh, Lisa, I know you're good.
Here, this is a sampling of a number of different rank insignias. The rank is displayed depending on the dress or the uniform being worn. Rank insignia may be found in an epaulette, which is the shoulder piece to a military uniform, or on the front of the uniform, usually around the third button on the chest part of the military uniform. For the more formal uniform dress, the rank will be displayed on either the upper sleeve, that's for the non-commissioned ranks, so those are the lower ranks, so we talked about the trades ranks, and on the lower sleeve for the commissioned officers. So you'll see braiding or some kind of insignia more towards the wrist on their tunic sleeve. And again, for an after session email, we can certainly send out a nice little package that gives you all of the ranks and what they look like. And they've just changed too, so we're still getting used to how to recognize those ranks when military personnel present at the desk. I'm just getting it, I think, now, but it's a huge change. Okay.
There was a big change? What were some of the changes?
Yeah, in terms of the rank names, and especially the rank insignia, especially for the officers. They went to the pips and crowns. They had gone, they had changed from I can't remember what the insignia is now. But even if you see in that chart in front of you, the aviator, the very far right where the wings are, that used to be just the one hook, like the chevron, but now they've done
right.
aviator, and it also matches the name change to aviator. Okay, cool.
Thank you.
All right. So this next chart, we know that with the rank structure it comes the responsibility of acknowledging the rank, and this is a question I'm asked a lot as well. And this is especially in the situation when a salute, or as they call it, paying of compliments is required. So as I said earlier, the rank structure is made up of officers and non-commissioned members. In the Canadian Air Force, officers are required to salute all officers senior to themselves. So as you see here, beginning with subordinate officer, they must salute all ranks above them. They do not salute ranks below them, it's only ranks above. So you would never see, for instance, an Army major saluting a Royal Canadian Navy naval cadet. But you will see... We
lost you for a moment there. Denise, did you want to just repeat that?
Sure. So for instance, all officers only salute officers senior to themselves, anyone above their rank. So if we take an example of, say, the Army major, you'll see it on the right-hand side of your graph, the Army major would not salute either a lieutenant below him or a sub-lieutenant in the Navy. Another example is if you have the Captain Navy on the left-hand side, the Captain Navy would not salute the Captain Army because technically the Captain Navy outranks the Captain Army, but the Captain Army would salute the Captain Navy. Okay. So much to remember. No wonder they have basic training. No wonder there's basic training. Okay. And then in your next slide, we'll talk about the non-commissioned ranks. They have to salute pretty much everybody but the officer cadets, the naval cadets, because they're still cutting their teeth, if you will, in terms of their rank, of their commission. Okay. So all non-commissioned members, they only salute starting from the second lieutenant under the Canadian Army or the acting sub-lieutenant on the Royal Canadian Navy. So a master corporal would not salute a sergeant, but he would definitely salute the second lieutenant. A naval seaman from the Navy side would not salute his chief petty officer, but he would salute the lieutenant Navy. Okay. The chief petty officer and chief warrant officers, they do get some respect, but we'll talk about that in just a moment. Okay. I just want to make sure I haven't forgotten anything. So that's why, and then this was a note that was brought up, that's why if you're out with your military member and you see them saluting one person but not another, it's because of the rank structure and how the paying of compliments must be delivered. Okay? Any questions on that? It helps to have that visual, doesn't it? Okay. So if we go to the next,
just before we go ahead, give me a green check if you've seen your person paying compliments. A red X if you have not. Yeah. And have you seen your person paying compliments? You're muted there. In cadets, very cool. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thank you. I was just curious.
Thank you. The rank insignia that we just reviewed is only one indicator of the military member's position within the Canadian Armed Forces. We can obtain a great deal of information about the member just by their dress. So with this example, with this photo of this military member, we can start by examining her beret. The color of the beret will indicate to which element the member belongs. So we talked about those three elements before. The Royal Canadian Air Force would be blue, black is for the Royal Canadian Navy, and green is for the Canadian Army. Some exceptions to that beret guideline includes red for those members who are in the military police or search and rescue trades, burgundy for the Princess Patricia's Canadian Light Infantry, light blue for the United Nations, etc. So with this blue beret, we know that this member is serving in the Air Force. Next, we have the CAT badge, and this is an indicator of the member's branch, unit, or regiment. So if the member is a member of the military police, we would see the totem pole with the eagle. If the member was a member of the logistics branch, it would be 2 cross rectangles, etc. So it shows us to which branch they belong. So already we know two things about this military member.
Where's the CAT badge on this person?
The CAT badge is that badge on her beret.
Oh, very good.
Just above her left eye? Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. The uniform being worn by her in this picture is the typical work dress of the Canadian Armed Forces, the computer-aided design pattern, so the CAD-PAT pattern that is now popular, and the Americans have copied and other military have copied around the world. So although the green CAD-PAT pattern is worn by members in all elements, it's the color of the T-shirt as well as the color of the rank displayed that will indicate to which element the member belongs. So we see with her T-shirt, of course, it's blue because it is the element of the Air Force, and we know she's Air Force because she's wearing the blue badge, a blue beret. And then her rank, which is clearly indicated there with our arrow, it's 2 chevrons, which would indicate to me that she's a corporal in the Air Force. So the chevrons are blue, the T-shirt is blue, the beret is blue, all reiterating the fact that this member is a member of the Royal Canadian Air Force. The member's last name will also be displayed on the name tag on the right side of the front of the uniform. The name is stitched according to the color of the service element. So her name, which I can't quite make out, would be stitched in blue because she is with the Royal Canadian Air Force. So just looking at her very quickly, you can tell so much by her uniform and the color of the uniform. And I find it very interesting. Maybe the next time you're at a Tim Hortons or you're more so outside, but you see military members intermingling, watch how quickly they look up and down someone. And it's not to be rude, it's to make sure that if there's a need for a paying of compliments, that they do so as quickly as possible. They need to know if that person is a higher rank and if they need to be saluted, which we'll talk about in a moment. And they need to know what their rank is and to which element they belong. So real quick identifiers simply by the uniform that's being worn.
So I have a question.
Sure.
When you have to pay compliments when you're in the workplace or only when you leave the workplace? Because otherwise you'd be paying compliments all day.
Right. It's usually the first encounter with that superior officer. If you're in a group, let's say if you're in a big meeting and there's the general walks in, there will be someone in charge of the group that will say to group, and the group will stand too, and then one person gives a salute on behalf of the entire group. But if you're outside, let's say, and I see it all the time outside of our Tim Hortons, if 2 people are walking, they're meeting each other in the middle of the parking lot, and one is a superior officer, the non-commissioned member needs to salute that member, that officer.
When they're out?
When they're outside, yeah. Yeah. And depending on where they are, depending on what the situation is, if they're at a social gathering, let's say there's a unit Christmas party, it will still be very polite, but they're not in uniform. They have to be in uniform and wearing a headdress for the salute to be executed.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, and if anyone knows more information than what I'm sharing, please share that with me. Sometimes I forget details or may not have been made aware of them. If that's the case, I'll fire my consultant, who's my husband, who told me all this stuff. Are there any questions? Or if you're prepared to, ready to move forward, we'll just get a green check from everybody. Okay. So far, we've discussed how to identify a Canadian Armed Forces member's rank, unit, and element. Now we ask ourselves, how do we address a military member? So if we must, as a military member, must follow the chain of command when we want to communicate with a superior, and we have to show respect for their rank, and this is done through military address. So this is talking about one military member to another, not civilians. So with the next slide, it gives us an idea of how superior officers are to be addressed. So let's say, for instance, my name is Corporal Cantor, and I meet up with Colonel Smith. The very first thing I would do is salute and say, Corporal Smith. And then the second or third time I address them would be sir or ma'am. And so always I must say Colonel Smith. I can never use their first name. Okay? Pretty straightforward. Our next slide shows us a bit of difference. Next slide.
Yeah, I have one question though.
Oh, sure.
You say you have to use the name. Could you salute and say sir or ma'am instead of the full name?
I think it depends on the situation as well. That I'd have to fine tune in terms of what the information is. Usually it's their rank and surname. Yeah.
Okay.
I kind of, earlier on I hearkened to our Chief Petty Officers and our Chief Warrant Officer. They are the highest rank in the non-commissioned member section. They have achieved a great deal within their trade and as a military person. Those achievements are recognized by these particular ranks. So this is why we have a slide as to how to address a non-commissioned member, especially the upper-ranking NCMs. So if we have a Chief Petty Officer First Class, which is our Royal Canadian Navy, or a chief warrant officer, which would be an Army or an Air Force rank. This is how they are addressed by lower ranks, or by a senior officer, depending on the situation. So if we have Chief Petty Officer First Class Jones, you would say Chief Petty Officer First Class Jones. A higher rank, a superior commissioned officer, may refer to him as Mr. or Mrs. Jones, but only a commissioned officer would use that term. A corporal, a lower ranking NCM, would never address that person as a Mr. or Mrs. Would never address a chief petty officer or a chief warrant officer as Mr. or Mrs. Only a higher rank commissioned officer. But the junior ranks can certainly call them sir or ma'am. And again, this highlights the respect that is due to these people who have reached these ranks because they're really top of their field. So this goes for our Chief Petty Officer First Class and our Chief Warrant Officer. Slightly different for the Chief Petty Officer Second Class and Master Warrant Officers. These ranks are addressed by their rank and surname, or by warrant, or sir or ma'am when addressed by junior ranks. So if we have Master Warrant Officer Gallant from the Army, he would be addressed as Master Warrant Officer or MWO Gallant, or they may call him warrant. And if it's a junior rank, they may call him sir or call her ma'am. All of the other non-commissioned member ranks are addressed by their rank or their rank and their surname. So Sergeant Addison would be Sergeant Addison only, never sir, ma'am, or anything like that, or warrant or what have you. Are there any questions on that or some need for clarification? Just put your hand up if you have a question.
That's a lot of information.
It is, and that's just why we have basic training. They go through this ad nauseum.
So this is what they learn in basic?
Yeah, this is part of what they would learn in basic, yeah.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah. So this is talking about military members, but now let's talk about we civilians. How does this or does this apply to us? So members of our CAF understand that most civilians are not familiar with the rank structure. So as a matter of courtesy, and this is as you would do in any social setting, err on the side of caution and address the military member in uniform by name and rank if you're able to determine this information. If you're not sure, just say sir or ma'am, and you can never get faulted for that. Military members are really great about that, especially if it's a family member coming to an event or a function on the base. They're really kind about that. Some members may let you know it's okay to use their proper name, but I would wait for permission. So as a staff member at the MFRC, it's expected on me that I've come to learn all of these ranks and understand the rank structure. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to email a captain about an event, and I know the person's name is Captain Smith. I would say, good morning, Captain Smith, here are the details. And if Captain Smith answers me and says, hey, Denise, thanks very much, good information, talk to you soon, Kevin. To me, that's information I may address him as Kevin. Or if they email me first and they use their name, or if he replies to me and says, thanks for the information, have a great day, Captain Smith, that's my cue that I need to continue calling him Captain Smith. But again, because I have the advantage of working on a base, it's in between both requirements between the civilian aspect and being a member of the military. But as I said before, in any situation, you would always err on the side of caution. You'd just address them by sir or ma'am. Maybe that's the way I was raised. I remember meeting a family friend, and I said, oh, Mr. Curvin, thank you for the information, and my dad was there. And he said, Denise, you're 21, you can call me Ray. I got home, and my dad's like, no, it's Mr. Curvin. So I always default on that sir or ma'am aspect because it just was ingrained in me. Are there any questions on that? It's kind of straightforward. If we know, we can default to sir or ma'am. If you're good to go, let's see a green check mark, please. Awesome. So now we're going to get you to work a little bit. This is our A for acronym game, and we couldn't talk about the military without talking about acronyms. Let's see if you can list some of the acronyms that we have on the table. So with your pointer tool, I'm going to ask you to claim a line on the table, and then try to give
the pointer tool, oh, just one second. The pointer tool is located on, located on the top left-hand side. It's a big, thick blue arrow. So Anne, for you, it's brand new. It's on the top left-hand side. And if you click on it, if you bring your mouse to one of the rows, you'll bring your arrow to one of the rows. So give that a shot. If I bring your eyes to the top left-hand side, there you go. So Anne, you've got it. We're waiting for shares. There we go, Kim's. And Lisa, I don't know if you can do that. If you want to unmute, I don't know if you can use the tools. Lisa?
I don't have access to them, but I'll just follow along. That's fine.
Sure.
Super. Okay, so.
Okay, so
go ahead.
If you want to try using your text tool, which is a little capital T just to the right of the pointer tool, if you want to scribe what you think the definition is in the cell next to your chosen acronym. So you click on the T, bring your pointer to the cell you want and click on that, and then you would just type in, and then you have to click away to see what you've typed.
And Lisa, I'm going to give you COY. If you want to put it in the chat. That was a good one.
That was a gimme.
Okay.
Okay.
And if you're using yellow and Sherry, your light blue is hard to see too a little bit. If you just click on the yellow box, there's a drop-down menu, and then you click on a different color, you're able to see a different color. The drop-down menu is to the right of the yellow box. So if you want to choose another acronym and use a different color and go from there.
Where's the yellow box?
So the yellow box, you see where the T is, with the pointer and the T. If you go to the end of that line, you're going to see a yellow box. Or maybe blue, or maybe it'll be a different color box. And then if you click on the drop-down menu to the right of that, you're going to be able to have a panel where you can choose a bunch of different colors. Did you find it?
Mm-hmm.
Super.
Okay. I think everyone answered quite quickly, actually. Maybe I have to make them more difficult next time. Shall we check our answers, which is on the next screen? There we go. So second in command was correct. Well done. The APC was a bit of a challenge. Armored Personnel Carrier. Canadian Forces Base, yeah. And did we have companies for COI?
No, I never would have gotten that one.
No. D&D, Department of National Defense. Well done in the F&E. It's not really that well known. Essentially, families were considered to be part of furniture and effects, so that's one thing that there's been work, attempted to kind of separate the family from the furniture, so to speak.
Thank you.
HQ is headquarters. The MIR, which is still a term in use, maybe by the older guard. Medical inspection rooms. OC is officer commanding. Sometimes that's interchangeable with commanding officer depending on what the responsibilities are. MFRC is, of course, our Military Family Resource Center, which is a great resource for all families and anyone supporting a military member. PMQ, Private Married Quarter. PT, physical training, and your standard operating procedures. So, yeah, this is just a drop in the bucket. This is a sand on the beach of all the acronyms that exist. So with future presentations, we'll probably change it up and do different ones each time. So stay tuned for more. Are there any questions on the acronyms? If you want to raise your hand.
And as I've said before, sometimes the Caregivers Brigade has a whole list of all the different Canadian ones. So if you like, we can share that list with you in the after-session email.
And every time I look at a list, it's different, so it's really interesting to see. Okay, so we're going to go forward now with the life of the military member. And I'll just share with you the kit that you see on this slide. That was my husband packing up after his 20 years of service in the military, so I was kind of sad when that day happened, but I was glad when the living room was cleaned afterward, to be honest. So, as a lifetime, the military member, the whole process starts with a visit to the recruiting center. Once a civilian applies, there will be a series of tests and assessments before the person is accepted into the CAF. The life of that civilian will definitely change forever once the message to report to the Canadian Forces Leadership and Recruit School, which is located in Saint-Jean-sur-Richelieu, Quebec, has been issued, and a new recruit is born. As we began today's session, we heard about some of the challenges and what the process, how long the process took for a couple of our young members. So it was very interesting to see that side of the house. Basic training for our non-commissioned members, remember those are the ranks from private up to Master Warrant Officer, is 12 weeks. So 12 weeks we can expect unless there's a need for recourse, which is do-over. Sometimes a member doesn't quite get the concepts and they may need extra time to try and catch on to them, and sometimes, oftentimes that time is allowed to the member to see if they can catch up and actually seal in that learning that was to take place at that time. After their basic training, the non-commissioned members will be posted to a base to complete the first stage of their occupational training. Once they've satisfied the requirements of this stage of training, they will be posted and well on their way to a military career. In a similar fashion, the officers, once they've completed their 14 weeks of basic training, they'll continue within their chosen occupational path, and they'll continue the work to develop and hone the skills that are required of an officer in the Canadian Armed Forces. So very similar paths in terms of learning how to be a soldier, because military members are first and foremost soldiers in the Canadian Armed Forces. Regardless of their trade, their basic requirement, their basic qualification is to be a soldier and to understand the Canadian Armed Forces. Length of service. This varies depending on the option that the member has chosen. So
before you get into length of service,
yeah,
Denise,
yeah.
Give me a green check if you've ever heard of the Basic Up videos or seen them. Okay, Cher's seen them, Kim. And have you ever seen the Basic Up videos? Okay. If you want to unmute, I can share with you a little bit about them. So the Basic Up videos come in 4 parts, and it's all about the Canadian training at the Recruit Center. So it takes, it talks about week by week what you can expect with real people that are going through it. It's a phenomenal Truth, Duty, Valor. I don't know those videos, but Basic Up is really good. So we're going to send you the Basic Up videos in the after session email as well.
Okay, and the Truth, Duty, Valor videos are Canadian Armed Forces as well, and I think they have a couple on basic training, and then they have, I think, on different trades as well.
Ah,
and they were recommended by my son.
Okay, so we'll send you that as well in the after session email. Denise, you want to take note of the Truth, Duty, Valor?
Sounds good. I think I've seen those as well.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Anne.
Oh, you're welcome.
Great. So back over to you, Denise.
I'm just writing that down. Okay. So in terms of length of service, the member has an option, one of 3 options. The first category, they call it variable initial engagement, and this engagement can range from 3 to 9 years. The indefinite period of service, which is subsequent to that variable initial engagement, so once they finish that initial engagement period, they can start this indefinite period of service, which can last up until the member is released or reaches the age of 60. Okay? And then the intermediate engagement, which is 25-year, can be followed by an indefinite period of service until the member is released. So really they can do either 1 or 3 first, so the variable initial engagement, the 3 to 9 years, or they can do the intermediate engagement, the 25 years, and then either one of those can be followed up by the indefinite period of service. Okay? So it's depending on what kind of contract they want to sign and how long they want to stay in or how long they're able to stay in. So I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. There are 3 different options. They can either start by the variable initial engagement or the intermediate engagement, 25-year, and then follow either one of those up with the indefinite period of service. Okay. Are you okay with that? It feels very wordy to me. Is that clear for everyone? Can I have a green check?
Yep. Sorry, is that for non-commissioned or for officers as well?
That's for all. The officers may vary a little bit depending on if they've had their education paid for, so they may have a longer period of initial responsibility, but just depends on how they set up. I mean, if they've already entered the military already having their degree, they may not be paying back education, but I think that's where you're going with that, Anne, is depends on what they have to pay back, okay?
Right.
Yeah.
And what trade.
And what trade, exactly.
Because I think you pay back after you finished your trade training.
Yes.
So my son signed a 13-year contract.
Okay. Yeah.
Because he's in the pilot program, so there's a long chunk of training after his degree. So he's doing his degree and then his pilot training, and then he owes whatever.
Right. Yes. A friend of mine just went to RMC. He's been with the helicopters out here for years, but then decided he wanted to do his degree and become a pilot. So they may know each other. Yeah. They just started this fall. Okay.
Oh, cool.
So if we're good on that length of service, and again, you can always email me for more information, just to have fine-tuned information about what that means. The locations of service, this comes after once the member has completed his or her basic training and they've completed the first stage of their occupational training. That's when the member will be posted. I mean, they'll be posted to a base for the training, but you can expect another posting, generally speaking, after they've completed their QL3s or their first stage of qualification. So they will be posted at some point. Okay, so talking about posting, let's go on to the next screen. This is a map that tells us about all the major bases in Canada, and I've identified the bases by their service element, and that's with the exception of bases like Borden, which is a training base, so we have different colors here. My family's lived on 3 bases. We've been in Edmonton twice, North Bay, and Gagetown, which was awesome. It was an hour away from my family. So using your pointer tool, which is up in the left-hand corner again, indicate any one of the bases you've lived or that you've visited. So that pointer tool out with the left hand, that's right. And if you visited a base or lived on a base, okay, so we have share. And Lisa, if you can't,
I can't get it to do both, but
oh, that's okay. Can you put it in our chat bar where you've maybe one of the bases you've lived at or visited?
Another opportunity is you could use the square tool where you can highlight what you've
Very good.
There's Gagetown.
We have Gagetown, we have Petawawa, Trenton. I've never been to Trenton. I'd love to see Trenton. Greenwood, Ottawa. Okay.
We're getting a little bit of background noise from you, Cheryl. Can you please mute? Thank you. Awesome.
Okay. So I see it's mostly Eastern Canada. Hopefully you'll have a chance to come out to Western Canada. There's always a cup of coffee on at RMFRC, so please drop in and visit us if you get a chance. Yeah, that's wonderful. Okay, so that's where a person could be posted once their training is all done. We did talk about OutCan postings, but usually if they get an embassy posting or an OutCan posting, the member has been in their trade a little bit and they've got quite a bit of experience under the belt to be able to get an OutCan posting. Again, it depends on the trade and what the requirements are, and that's how a member will be posted as well. It depends on what their trade is and what that particular base needs. If they need a corporal who's a mechanic at Edmonton and there's someone available, that's where they'll be sent, et cetera. It's frustrating because we do hear them say, you know, you have your 3 choices, and usually it's choice number 4 where you're sent.
But still the case.
It's still the case. So it all depends on what the need is and where that need is. Okay, so if we're good to go, I'll see if we all have a green check mark and we can move forward. Brilliant, thank you. At this point, I want to talk about the life of the military member. So now we've gone through, we understand what D&D is, we understand what the org chart is, we understand the rank structure and how a military member is to address another military member, and what it's like for a civilian to join the military, what kind of training is necessary. But what is their life like once they pretty much settled into the Canadian Forces? One of the first aspects is we always talk about the pay and pension. We know that members are paid semi-monthly every month. And as described earlier, there's a pension plan for members who want to make the Canadian Armed Forces a long-term career. So the pension plan is another attraction because it's not every company that still has a pension plan. And that was pointed out to me when I started to freak out that my son wanted to join the military. I want him to be taken care of long-term, but that system is in place. And I'm sure once the Phoenix pay system is settled down, that will work well for our civilian family as well. But anyway, job security. Members are on a contract. We talked about those 3 contract opportunities. We know that when a member wakes up one morning, he's not going to be released without any notice. It's part of the contract. And there are measures in place, there are processes in place before a member is released from the Canadian Armed Forces. For education and training, to be a part of the CAF is to be ever ready, and training and education are integral to the readiness of the Canadian Armed Forces. They are always training, they are always learning about their trade, they're always learning about the Canadian Armed Forces and what it means to be a soldier in the Canadian Armed Forces. So constant training. For the health and dental care, members are provided with complete health and dental care, having access to both services delivered via military medical and dental clinics. One of the challenges I face working with my medically released members is the adjustment of members to having to do everything for themselves again. They're told when to show up for a dental appointment. They're told when to show up for their physicals. So their physical well-being is always being monitored, is always being taken care of. There are always appointments to be made and dental visits, et cetera. So they're always up to date on the state of a military member's state of health. For new Canadian Armed Forces members, vacation days are allowed. They are entitled to 20 days of vacation, or what they call leave, upon joining. That number is increased to 25 days per year after 5 years of service. And there is, of course, there are opportunities for allocated time off, block leave, and other leave as granted by the chain of command. So sometimes if they work overtime, they may get what's called a short day, not an official leave, but it's something granted by the chain of command. So at the very minimum, they'll get 20 days a year, and then other leave that's been allowed by the unit themselves, if there's a block leave situation, et cetera. They do have to ask for leave, and they do have to let people know where they're going to be in case they need to be mobilized at a moment's notice. And in the old days, and I think they may still do it depending on where the member's traveling, they may have to go into their local armory where they're visiting or a police station just to confirm that that's where they've been. For maternity and paternity benefits, Canadian Armed Forces members are entitled to access those benefits, which are, of course, a federal program through Employment and Immigration. Having access those benefits through EI, the Canadian Armed Forces will top up their parental benefits up to 93% of regular pay. So not only are CAF members allowed to access those benefits, but they also get a top-up as well, and it goes for the mom and the dad. The personal and leisure support is really important. It's important for the physical and mental well-being of our military members, and the CAF offers excellent resources to its members. Those resources include fitness centers and programs, promotions offered through health promotion, mental health supports, recreation facilities, clubs, and activities, and those are just to name a few. The health promotion program is also available to military families, retired veterans, and members of the defense team. And that's a great resource to access different workshops such as managing anger moments, the intercom program, fitness and nutrition programs as well. Lastly, postings, and I'll repeat myself again. The purpose of the postings is to allow the CAF to staff its bases and wings with qualified personnel, and this is as appropriate to the operational requirements, so it's what is needed at the base. The postings, on the flip side, and which I think is a really neat aspect as well, those postings also offer the members the opportunity to practice their chosen occupation in a different setting. So they're not always doing the same thing in the same setting at the same time. So they get a variety of settings, circumstances, and tempos, and this gives them a gamut of experience and challenges within their trade. By tempo, I mean, a few years ago, Edmonton was really busy. We were one of the mounting units for Afghanistan, so a tradesperson would have a different exposure to different circumstances than at a base that had already done their turn as a mounting unit, or perhaps they were a quote-unquote Florida base. So this is just a small list of some of the benefits. They're the more tangible and you know, the applied benefits that are available to our military members who are serving with the CAF. Are there any questions on that? If you have a question, just raise your hand. Or we could have a green check if you're ready to go on. Such a quiet group. So as I said earlier, this is just part one of a two-part series that has been developed under the title of Military 101. And this part talks about the military and the lifestyle of the Canadian Armed Forces member. For part two, we'll go more in depth about the life of the military family, and we'll be announcing dates for any virtual classroom presentations for that section later on. So I'd love your feedback on the topics that we discussed today. If you want to grab your pointer, maybe grab a spot on the board and using your text tool, share any comments you have about today's presentation. So just grab your pointer tool, which is up in your left-hand corner, claim a spot on the slide, and use your text tool to maybe some kind of feedback. If I didn't address what you wanted to learn this evening, because we need to know what works and what is needed by our families.
And also, while you're doing that, I've put in the chat box a link to a survey. So if you could click on that link as well. So Kim, what part of the information was good information for you?
Just all of it. Basically, a lot of the rank and that kind of organizational thing was really helpful.
Good.
Mm-hmm. If you have the opportunity, if you could just click on the link, Kim and Ann and Cher and Lisa, and then just, it will only take a few moments, and to get back, you click on the blue and green ball, and then we'll finish up with these comments. So Denise, Cher is looking for a hard copy of the slides. I think the after session email would be better than giving all the slides, don't you think?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what I meant. Like the yeah.
Just a hard copy of
some, yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Just give us a green check when you're done, when you're back from the evaluation. There we go, Anne. So Anne, what did you find most interesting here, the ranks and the acronyms?
Just that I think it will help me understand some of the things my son says and be able to talk to him.
Ah, right, yes, because it's a new language, isn't it, Anne?
Yeah. That's why I want that chart as a reference tool.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Good. And Kim, we already shared that you thought it was really good information. Do you think there's anything we could have added to it, Kim?
No, I think that was the first part. I'll be interested to attend the second one.
Yes, the second one is all about deployments and moves. And what else, Denise?
I'm trying to remember now. It's just understanding the family's role to play in it, because I firmly believe there is a family role to play, having lived it.
So that one, Denise?
I haven't finished that second half. I'm still working on fine-tuning it. So I'll ask Margaret to do a good advertising push when we decide when to put the virtual one up.
Oh,
probably in the new year, I would say.
Yeah.
Well, that's perfect timing.
This is other duties as assigned, so this is a second. This is actually something I took on. I didn't even tell my boss I was doing it till it was done. So.
So Anne, that's a great question. How will you find out about the session? So in the evaluation, there was a section that if you wanted some information on the monthly virtual calendars, you could put your email in there, and then we would send them out to you whenever they're coming. Fantastic that you liked PEI's Facebook page, because that's where we put all of our virtual sessions that are coming up. Where else can we find it? And then through Share and through, like, I share it as many places as I possibly can. Super. And Lisa, what were your thoughts today? What did you come away with it?
I really appreciated a review of some of the things I learned when I first started with the MFRC, and also just to hear what families are looking for too. And information is good to share. That was great.
Super. All right. Well, thank you so much for coming out, Denise. What a phenomenal job you did. Thank you very much for sharing your wisdom and your training from your military spouse. And if there's no more we'll be here if you have any questions, but if there's no more questions to exit out, you click on the red X on the top right-hand side of your screen. And we look forward to seeing you in the next virtual session. And Kim, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. As I said, I'm in Ontario and my son is posted in Halifax. And I'm wondering, how do I go about sending him a package? Is there some way you do it through the military, or do I have to do it through?
When they're deployed, you can send morale mail, but they must be, he's on ship, is he?
He's not yet, no.
He's not yet?
He's just, no.
Yeah.
He's at school.
So I would check with your MFRC, because some MFRCs have different budget allocations, or maybe even through his reserve unit in your town, but generally it's limited to morale mail when they're deployed somewhere.
Okay.
So I would check with your local MFRC to see if they have any resources. In my area, we don't. It's only when they're deployed. So if my son gets in and I start sending him parcels, it'll be at my cost.
Okay.
But just see if there is a resource for you in terms of your MFRC, or like I said, a local reserve unit, things like that. It's kind of tricky when he's still in Canada, kind of thing.
And Lisa, with reference to the Halifax posting, does Halifax MFRC have anything you can add?
I only know in terms of mail going out, not coming in.
Right.
So we would refer to the local MFRC where you are too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I would go to Trenton then.
Yeah.
And see if they can. And if not, is it possible for me to, when he's deployed, is it possible for me to send something to the Halifax MFRC and then have it go in the deployment?
If he's on deployment, you'd go to the Trenton MFRC.
Okay.
They have a phenomenal program there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's what's called morale mail, and essentially it's to get it to Belleville, because that is the clearinghouse for the morale mail going out of Canada. It's how it gets there where you may have more options. So for instance, in Edmonton, you can go to the base mail room and they will send it to Belleville free of charge for you. But it has to be to an actual mission deployment. I know on the West Coast, the ship has to be on an actual deployment, not on exercises or maneuvers. I've heard Halifax, it might be different. Even if they're on maneuvers, they may have morale mail. But also, if they're deployed overseas, as I said, you could go through morale. But around Christmas time, most years, I don't know if Canada Post will do it this year, but usually every October to January, you can send it from Canada Post offices for free as far as Belleville. We're still waiting to hear on that if they're going to do it again this year. I haven't seen anything on it. So lots of options available when the member is deployed out of Canada. So for Halifax, is it just for maneuvers or for deployment, or can they do it when the ship is just on exercise? Do you know?
I'm not 100% sure,
okay.
And I'm not consistent either.
Okay.
I think it bends, changes a little bit.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so just research, and you can always ask your local MFRC deployment coordinator for more information.
Okay, thank you very much.
Pleasure, thank you.
Super. Any other questions or comments? Great. So then to exit, you just click on the red X on the top right-hand side. And I'm so appreciative that you came, Anne and Kim and Lisa and Cher. Thank you so much for being part of this today.
Thanks very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. See you again.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.
There we go.
You must
So
be tired.
Denise, you did it. Oh my
Hey.
goodness, it was really informative.
Yeah, they seemed very appreciative. It was nice.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And they're looking forward to the next part. So
I
maybe,
know. We had to get that teaser in, hey?
that's not part of your job. So how are you going to do that?
I have worked on it. It's just too short. I mean, it would only be about a 20-minute because the bulk of the focus was on the military member. So I'd like to do something that's at least a half an hour. So I want to add more content to it.
Good, good, good. And did you happen to see the conversation with Russ and Lucy Mann?
No, I haven't had a chance yet. I found out I'm going to New Brunswick last minute, so I was kind of like, oh my gosh. So yeah, I'll have to take a look at that.
Do you have it though?
Yeah, you know you did. Yeah, I've got it, no problem.
Oh, good, because people have been. You can share that with your clients because it's been giving them great information.
Yes.
And I had a meeting today. What's the story with why does it take 3 months for the pay to transfer from in the transition?
You mean for the pension?
Well, when they're for the pension. So when they're getting out of the Canadian Armed Forces and they become a veteran, they have to wait 2 months. Why?
It's paperwork. It doesn't always take that long, and it depends on what they're talking about. So some of them are going straight to their pension, and some of them are also expecting a vocational rehab payment because they're doing special programs through CISIP and through Veterans Affairs to retrain for Civilian Street. Their intent is to, especially if they're medically releasing, their intent is to go into a different trade on Civvy Street. The voc rehab money takes a while to come in because it's all about the paperwork. The pension can take up to 12, 16 weeks from the last I heard. It doesn't always take that much time. They're just saying that's the outside time frame it'll take.
Why though? Doesn't make sense.
But it's like anything else because it's a national system, right? So yeah. And then with the voc rehab, it's not a national system in terms of it's being managed by a third party. It's being managed by Manulife.
But then why don't they start 3 months ahead?
They can only do so much at certain stages, from what I understand.
Because I had a family member who is really stressing because they have mortgage payments and everything else like that, and it's just their bills are adding up and they're not going to get paid till October.
But they're told this, and if they're medically releasing, and they're told this in SCAN seminars, if they're attending all of their workshops and seminars that they should be attending in preparation for the release, whether it's for a medical release or they're simply choosing to release, there's lots of information to tell them, look, you need to plan your finances a good year away from your retirement or your release. And I know not everybody can do that, especially if it's in the case of a medical release, but the minute you get on TCAT, most people know they may be heading to a permanent category, so that's when they need to start putting measures in place. I've asked somebody from CISIP to talk about planning for retirement, and she said, I need to talk to them 2 years out. I had a member call me. He said, I'm retiring early August. I've been told it'll be 12 weeks. I need to find funds to fill the gap. And I'm like, why are you telling me this in July? You know, and they're not there. So our advice is, you know, talk to your bank, get a line of credit, talk to your mortgage company. So it's frustrating that is what it is. It's frustrating that that's the case, but they know. They have been told that these things take time. So I don't know why it takes so much time. I think the pension aspect, because it is a federal thing. I mean, never mind the Phoenix system right now for the federal employees.
Is that still an issue?
Yeah, apparently people didn't get paid today, and then they got paid. There was a glitch already. So
oh,
yeah,
no.
yeah. So anyway, that's where it is. Members are told well enough in advance, especially if they're engaged and they're getting the information about this time frame. The pension doesn't always take that much time, but I'm concerned about the VOC rehab because that does take time to come in. But if they're eligible for a pension, they'll be getting lots of money all at once, kind of thing, right? So,
wow.
So it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't make sense, but it is what it is.
Because
we were told at least 8 weeks, 12 weeks when my husband retired. It took 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah, he had half a pension payment within 2 weeks, which is the correct amount, but he had half a pension payment by the end of that month. He retired at the beginning of the month, and he had, yeah. But I think he had all of his ducks in a row, too, with the release section and had done everything, and we had been planning his release for about 8 months. So,
wow.
And he went right to work. He left on a Friday and went to work City Street on a Monday. So we were very lucky because a lot of that wasn't planned.
Right.
So, yeah, I'm one of those people that didn't plan ahead, so I totally get it. It's scary. It's very, very scary because there are no contingency funds. There's no big funds for that, yeah.
Wow, yeah, so that's an issue for sure.
Yeah,
all right, well listen, it's wonderful to talk to you today, and you did a great job, and I'll send you the evaluation, and if you can send me the information for the after session email, I'll send that out.
So they simply wanted the rank structure.
The basic up.
Yeah.
And the other video series link.
Yeah, I've seen that. It's almost like a documentary. It was on like public television a while ago, Truth or Duty, Valor. So I'll find those links for you and send them to you.
Super. And anything you want to add. So if you want to thank them for coming or whatever, a little note.
Okay, perfect. Okay, that's what I'll do then. All right, I'll have that to you by Friday.
Awesome. Well, listen, have a great evening. You're welcome. We'll talk to you later.
You take care, Margaret. Okay. Bye.
Bye.